Welcome everybody who's attended before, and for those of you that haven't, welcome to your first one. This is part of just our ongoing kind of education series and webinars here at Vendoroo. My name is Tyler Nelson. I am the head of operations here. I come from a property management background. I did start, scale, and sell my own company. Sold it almost a year ago at this point. Been in AI pretty much since its inception over a decade ago, and just always kind of followed it. So landed here, kind of the perfect mix of property management, AI, maintenance, all in one. And so our goal with these webinars is to, one, provide insights, not just in the Vendoroo product, but also how you can use AI in the rest of your business as well. And then also making sure that any like big releases or updates that we have, we're able to kind of showcase those to you all as well. So this one is really geared around insights and education for your AI teammate. It's one that I'm super excited about. There's a tool that we've been working on internally for a while here that my goal is to do a live demo of as well. And it really is meant to be focused all around data. So I come from an engineering background too. That's my education. So I am extremely interested in data, but also what do you actually do with it? So we'll go over a couple just general points of how I like to look at data, how I structure my thoughts when I'm looking to accomplish something. And then I'll do a live demo of what we are currently in the process of releasing, but is live for us internally. So we utilize it for our new onboardings and also looking at our current clients as well. And then we'll do our usual live Q&A, which can be anything under the sun. So it doesn't have to be pertaining to what we showcase here in the webinar. It can be anything Vendoroo, or even if you just have a question about AI in general. I do tend to talk fast. So if I am speaking too fast, please ping it in the chat, and either Jackie or myself will be monitoring that, and I'll be sure to slow down. And then also Jackie will be monitoring the chat as well. So if you have any questions in the moment, feel free to put them there and we'll either answer it on the spot or we'll save it to the end. All right, so diving in here. So data is everywhere at this point in our lives. When we're walking around, we're collecting data on our phones. When we're driving places, there's GPS data. When we're interacting with each other, when we're online, pretty much no matter what we're doing, data is being collected in some way, shape, or form. And so I think it's important to acknowledge that, because even in your businesses, you may not directly be looking to absorb any particular piece of data, but you might still have it. So one thing we talked about in our last webinar was how you actually interact with tenants and complete work orders and actually just go through your maintenance process actually says a lot about the policies that you have as a company. And so for our onboarding team, we actually have like an AI agent that goes through and looks at your work orders now and actually can help generate those policies on your behalf if you don't have them written down somewhere. So even how you interact in your own company, your communication style, how you receive phone calls, how you communicate with tenants, how you generate leases, like all of that can actually be used in some way, shape, or form. But what do we actually do with it? So a lot of people say, oh, we have a tremendous amount of data. We collect data in X, Y, and Z ways. But what do you actually do with it? Data for data's sake is just noise. It just adds to the amount of information that you have to internalize and look at. And if there's not a clear direction with what to do with it, then it's ultimately not useful. I'm a big fan of, if you see it and are ingesting it, it needs to be used for something very specific. And that may also be we're doing nothing. Like if say all of our properties are filled, for example, so we're at 100% occupancy, we don't need to be doing any marketing. We don't need to be doing any leasing right now. We can do other activities. But if all of a sudden we get one vacancy, now it triggers a workflow and an action that we actually have to do and accomplish to get to the end. And you may see that and have those bands for a variety of different metrics that you may hold near and dear within your company as well. And then, like I said, each data point should indicate an actual action. Like, for example, if you're just saying, hey, our attendants have sent us 75 messages a day, and you say, okay, that's cool, but what do you actually do with that? Should you be receiving 75 messages a day? Are there 65 of those 75 the same question that you can just have in an FAQ somewhere that they can go and get answers themselves? Are those 75 individual questions that different people need to answer and you need to bring them in? So if you're collecting that information, ultimately, what should you be doing with it? And if you're not going to do anything with it, my recommendation is that you don't collect it, you don't show it, and ultimately don't bog yourself and others down with it. And so that's our goal too at Vendoroo, is like, if we start showing you something and you're looking at it and saying, hey, I don't know what to do with this, or like, what is the point of this information? That means that we probably missed the mark either on education or we're looking at the wrong thing. So definitely always provide that feedback to us too. If we release something like, not entirely sure what this is intended for or what to do with this. And kind of like what I mentioned, it just specifically data and property management, like these are all the different things that you can actually collect information on. So you have inspections, lease violations, tenant turnover, rent rolls, complaints, occupancy rates, fair housing rules, lease expirations, maintenance in general. And with all these different categories, I purposely put this in a very confusing word cloud is because what do you ultimately do with all this information? If it's coming at you from a ton of different ways and directions, and types of information and data. Some of it can be email, some of it's in your PMS, some of it's directly through phone calls. Like, what do you ultimately do with all this, and how do you organize what you need to bubble up the actionable insights? And so, what we're doing on our side, and many of you will have already seen this email that's been going out, that's called the Weekly Maintenance Insights Report. And the goal of that, and I'm going to show one live and where the data actually comes from and what we hope to accomplish with it here shortly. But it really is meant to take all the data that we are getting from communicating with your tenants, communicating with your vendors, communicating with you all as property managers as well, and actually showcase that to you in a clear way that can drive an action or at least guide you in next steps that may need to be taken. The second piece is maintenance book completion. And so this is the maintenance book within Vendoroo is actually your AI's brain. So if you've been on the past couple webinars and you've gone through the onboarding process and even spoken with your account managers, we'll go into your go-to vendors, your policies, your client notes, everything within your maintenance book that you have access to within the Vendoroo dashboard as well, and see if there's any tweaks and changes. So I saw a couple people on the guest list here, and I know if more than a few of us have had conversations around, well, how do we keep increasing that automation number? Or hey, this work order came in a little interestingly. Like, how do we actually adjust that? And a big component of that is simply through your maintenance book. And so what we've built internally is we've looked at top automated clients and their maintenance books and come up with some guidelines of what does the ad need to at least get you to a really good spot from the get-go. And we define a really good spot as about 70 to 80% of work orders being handled without your involvement as a property manager. And then from there, we level you up slowly because there may be additional training you need to do for the AI that's outside of your maintenance book. There may need to be some cleanup. There may be some very specific policies that you have in place that keep it at that 70 to 80% range. And as long as that makes sense to you, it makes sense to us and your AI teammate as well. And so this is what I'm going to showcase as well. This component is not quite live on our client dashboards yet as a section to go to, but the goal is that it is shortly. But all the account managers and internally we have access to this. So if you're curious about where you stand on your next call, happy to show you this and we can walk through it too. But this is also going to be what the live demo is on. So yeah, demo time. I know that was a crash course on data, but I just wanted to kind of structure the demo a little bit with we are collecting a tremendous amount of data through working with you all, and your AI teammate has tons of information. And we want to make sure we are doing the best that we possibly can do with that data. First one we'll go to is the insights email. And so the plan right now is that this goes out on a weekly basis. Now we do recognize that some clients have different volume of work order. So we are internally looking at how can we optimize this further for our clients. So like if you only had a few work orders coming in the last week, but you don't just get bombarded with an email that doesn't have a lot of good insights. And then similarly, if you have dozens or hundreds of work orders coming in, that we adjust that accordingly too, so you don't miss any good insights. Everything in here is also trend based, and it's meant to be categories and like groupings of things that are popping up a decent amount across your work orders too. So we have your AI agent working on an individual work order. And if something happens on that specific work order, we flag it, escalations or communication if a tenant is frustrated or there's a challenge getting a hold of an owner or something like that. So everything on a specific work order will still be handled on that work order and addressed in the moment. And then we take all of those happenings from those work orders and bundle them into this insights report. And so the first thing that we're looking at is number of work orders or percentage of work orders that are managed without your involvement. And so that's also what's tied to that maintenance book completion that I'll showcase next. So that's the first piece. If you're hovering kind of around that 70 to 80% mark, you're in a good spot. If you're lower than that, we always want to improve it. And our goal is really to get all clients to about 90 to 95%. We do have more than a few clients at that point now, and they're the ones that we actually used to categorize and group and like score our other maintenance books to help guide us internally as well as our awesome clients to get everybody to that level too. But now, if you have certain policies in place, like for example, hey, for this specific owner, like don't communicate with them, always escalate it to me. That will decrease this number, but that would be something that we say, hey, that's okay. That's a policy you have in place. Your teammate is going to follow that policy and recognize that I need to escalate this to a manager in this scenario. But if there was something that said like, hey, I'm submitting this work order, it's unclear if it's like in this HOA or there's a home warranty program on it. That would be something where we'd want to go to your maintenance book, tweak something to level that number up. Then, if you're using the receptionist, which is our AI voice receptionist, essentially, you'll also see number of phone calls that were handled on your behalf. And what is going into this now is number of phone calls that we didn't actually have to transfer to you. So number of phone calls that we answered, got the caller their solution. And then also what some clients really like about it too is that it blocks a lot of spam calls. So it will show that number here as well. And if we have time at the end, I'll also showcase where you can see your data on receptionist, since we got some feedback that not all clients knew where to find that. So yeah, the next thing is work order insights. So within the past 30 days, you'll see how many work orders were completed, how many are still open. I'm using our sandbox one right now because I don't want to show live client information, but it'll show how many current work orders you have open and then how long it takes to resolve those. That is until we have confirmed. That is actually from start to completion. So including collecting the invoice and completing the work order entirely. We are working on internally breaking this out into the different kind of sections of a work order. So how long does it take to triage? How long does it take to assign a vendor? How long does it take for that vendor to accept? How long does it take to get that vendor out there and address the issue? And then how long does it take to collect an invoice? And that way, both you all and us can work together and say, oh, like, do we need to hone in on one specific part of this process and make policies, or like, are there specific vendors that take longer to answer or resolve something and move that way? And then PM response time. So this is looking at how long it takes if we like escalate something to you or your team, how long it takes to get a response back from you to get that resolved. And so if this number is higher than what you would expect, there's a couple things that can go into that. One, your property managers are very busy, so you're getting it to it when you can get to it. And there's also another component, which is you may see it and be like, well, you should know about this type of thing, or have that response of like, well, this isn't like super important, etc. So if you ever have that reaction of this is something that should be handled already, or like, I'll get to this, usually it means that we can build a policy around that in your AI teammate's brain to handle that going forward. So then you don't get those messages in the future. The next section is resident sentiment. I do wish we actually had a couple that I could show here on it, but if for those of you that have received this, it does show like happy face, frowny face, smiley face, and we order them by the ones that have negative sentiment so that you can see if there's any specific tenants that are frustrated in the moment. And that's generally outside of just the work order. So tenants always may submit a work order, like if the water's leaking or hot water's not working, like they're going to be frustrated, but we kind of take a baseline, and then if they're even more frustrated like outside of that, or they flag another issue or say something specific that's not necessarily related to the work order, we will flag that. And the goal of this is really to just provide insight to you to let you know what your tenants are saying, feeling, and thinking. And that may be an opportunity just for a relationship touch point by you or your team, or maybe it's like, hey, this is just a challenging tenant. But ultimately, if we're able to surface the tenant sentiment, then the goal is that that can help you kind of increase your vacancies, decrease the amount of turnover you have, which ultimately makes your owners happier and everybody has higher revenue and higher and like greater degrees of profitability going on into the future too. Since tenant turnover is one of the largest costs outside of maintenance usually to any particular owners. And so that is built into the count of repeat work order types. So generally, you'll see that the tenants here that are listed on your insights, if they have high number of work order counts, they're generally on the sentiment report. That's kind of what I would generally expect when I'm looking at these, since if they've submitted 4 work orders for an AC unit not working, and every time somebody's come out and kind of put a patch on it and it just keeps breaking, they're going to be more and more frustrated. So that can be an indication of, hey, maybe we have a conversation with the owner, or maybe we make a different decision as far as how we repair this, so it ultimately goes away. And that is something that that will be flagged in your insights report is the category. So say like plumbing at a specific property, and it'll show you the total number of work orders that were done there as well. Yeah, and then you'll see the most frustrated residents down here. You'll get an overall sentiment score up here that's out of 10, and it'll tell you trends as well. And then the final piece that's in this insights report is your vendor performance. And so this will show number of work orders that they've done for you in the last 30 days, average completion time, satisfaction score. So we have rolled this out kind of slowly, where we're actually soliciting additional feedback from the tenant. And then in the near future, for those of you that are on tier 2 and 3, you'll be able to actually get reviews. Tier 3, you can already get reviews if you provide us with the review link that you want them to post it to. So they say, hey, everything went well. We can provide them that link and it'll go out there. It'll send them to that public link. And then for for tier 2, so just the vendor coordinator, we are going to be releasing that in the near future too. But the goal of this vendor insights is how long is it taking them? And then are they doing a good job overall? Are tenants happy with them? Are you happy with them? And then this rework piece is connected to, did we have to send them back out? So they went one time, fixed something, and then that issue popped up again, or the tenant said that, hey, they actually didn't fix it, the issue's still there, and they had to go back out. So how effective and efficient are your vendors actually in that process overall too? So yeah, really hoping that this is provides some good information to all of our clients. It is dependent upon kind of the number of work orders that you do have coming through. But if you have any questions, concerns, comments, we can always on our side go in and filter for a different date range for you and do this during our conversations, because it does pull from our own like business intelligence platform as well. So yeah, so this resident overall sentiment score right here is what gets put into this box, and it's out of 10. And then you can see like count to repeat work order types. Oh, these are our test ones. Yeah, and then like most frustrated residents. So you can see the sentiment level with a little frowny face. And then it'll give you like the reason too. So like this is a perfect example. So the resident reported that a prior maintenance request was closed despite the water still being out, and they said they hadn't heard anything. So this could be a good indication of, hey, we can get the vendor back out there, touch base like from our side at Vendoroo, like why was it initially completed if the resident didn't report back, and work towards closing those gaps as well. Yeah, and then we also are working on vendor sentiment too. So this kind of ties into the not just the tenant sentiment, but also how is the vendor liking the process as well. So this is something that we are working on in the future too. Okay, that wraps up the insights piece. The next piece is something that is brand new, and I'm super excited about it. Pretty much, I don't generally like to toot our horn or anything like that, and I'm definitely not a salesperson. But this to me is one of the cooler things that I think we've actually like rolled out in support of our all the AI agents that are enabling all of our clients. And this is really how do you actually educate, and what actually goes into making your AI agent even better, and how can you actually make a decision in the moment and know if it did a positive or a negative thing, like with respect to your automation. And so I'll kind of click into some of these and show you how it flows. But the overall component is, so we'll use this. So we'll take action here. So this is if you log in, like this is your overall maintenance book. And so right here, these 5 blocks are tied exactly to certain areas of the maintenance book. So your go-to vendors is the go-to vendors tab. Policies is your policies tab. Client notes and emergency notes are within guidelines right here. And then the last piece is property unit notes. That is coming straight from your PMS, and that is on this tab too. And so It's looking at all the properties, all the policies, all your vendors, all your guidelines, and saying, does it meet the criteria that we view as, hey, this is going to be really good for the AI, at least from a starting point, without needing any additional customizations. And so if I click on property unit notes, it will show all the properties here that have blank unit notes. So I click on this, it'll actually highlight this specific property and you can see what's being brought into it. Now, property and unit notes, as I mentioned, do come from your property management system. They're different places depending upon which property management system you have. Um, Buildium doesn't actually have a not to exceed amount field, so you do have to manually update it here. But the maintenance notes are pulling from pretty much all of our PMS systems that we integrate with. And so if you went in, updated those fields within your PMS, save them there, the next time it's synced, you would see this number actually increase and it fall off here. So we did 150 main. I'll see if it actually goes here. Responsible for maintenance. Say this as an example, 250. Great. And then, so 150 main was the second one on here. And I refreshed it, and you can see it's a live sync. So 150 main just fell off the list. And so that is what I think is one of the coolest pieces here is that it points you exactly to what needs to be changed. So like on the policies, like, oh, we don't have a light bulb policy. Let's see what this means. So if I go here, yeah, looks like we actually don't have. We do have one, but it just says light bulb description. So it actually looks at the language and the instructions that are within your policies too. And if it's not necessarily clear, it will still flag it. And so it's saying like, we just have a light bulb description here. Or it's even giving us direction of like, please enable to apply to all locations since on here it's applied to 0 locations. So that's not actually helpful because we have a policy that applies to nowhere. Then what do we actually do with it? So we applied it to all locations, save it. That will help that component. And then also if you ever see something that's blank, the best way is just to update it too. So the best one would be tenant responsible for all light bulbs under 10 feet. All right, so now we have applied to all locations. We have a new updated policy, and let's see if it falls off the list. Yep, and so now that fell off the list. And if we go manual refresh, we'll see if this actually changes. Yep, and so we can do refresh it, and now this progress bar is slowly increasing. Let's see here. The next piece, oh yeah, there. So you have to refresh the whole page to get to this piece, but the as an extension of all these items. So outside of it just saying, oh, I don't have a handy person here, like let's take action and add a handy person. Or like for router, there's only one vendor found, and we generally say that there needs to be at least 2 vendors for all the main categories. So in case somebody doesn't answer, we can actually go to the next one on the list. But the coolest thing about this is, okay, it tells me what to do to like fill this out and make sure it's complete. But what actually happens after that? And so, as a part of all this, there is a timestamp for what you actually did. So it's saying, hey, we updated the policy and updated the description of light bulbs. And then we actually applied all locations for light bulbs for that specific policy. And it gives the timestamp. And so on each of these individual dots, you can see how many updates were made and what the total automation was. And so as you start changing things and as we start working together to update certain items or change certain policies or add additional information, the goal is that you would see this trend go up. And if for some reason it comes down after you make some changes, we'd want to understand why. Was it actually tied to a specific policy, or did that policy trigger additional escalations that you intended and wanted to happen? And that's the new steady state. But ultimately, that's like the insights and the actions that we want to drive from all this data. So we're showing you and us internally, hey, we need to make some updates here. But then also, what happened from those updates, and also where are we trending? So do we need to actually look at something? What do we need to accomplish, and how do we get you to that 90 to 95% club, which is ultimately our goal across the board. So those of you that do have receptionist, at the top here, you will see you'll have insights. So it'll be like dashboards, workspace, insights. If you click on insights, you'll have the vendor insights and you'll have receptionist insights. And let me find that tab here. So you'll see total number of calls, call time, average score on that dashboard, and then you'll see all the call history too. So from our perspective, like your data is your data. Like this is your AI teammate. And if you said, hey, I need to talk to my AI teammate and see what happened, you should be able to get that information without submitting like a request for it. And so if you go to your dashboard, you can always see all the calls that happened, how the call finished. So call finish, client hang up means the person who called in hung up first. If it says assistant hang up, that means that basically your receptionist hung up. Um, if it shows a number here, then that will actually be the number that the call was routed to. And so you can see a general summary of the call by clicking on it. It'll tell you the summary, any questions that were answered as well. And then you can also see the full transcript of the call by clicking on the summary. And last but not least, you can actually listen to it. So we give you the full call recording too. If there's ever anything that you need to validate, touch base on, if somebody says like, hey, I reported this and I don't know what to do with it, you can always go back and listen to everything here. Well, yeah, if you have any questions at all, whether about anything I just went over, please feel free to drop it in the chat. How do you get to this receptionist call history? If you log in and it's enabled on, like receptionist is enabled on your account, you'll go to this insights tab and there will be a drop down. There should be two sections here and one should say receptionist. If you click on that, it'll bring up the table and a couple of the summary groups as well. Lisa, great question. So this is specifically for the redesign here that I showed. This is specifically for the vendor coordination and the troubleshooting and triage agent. So it is not tied to receptionist. However, if you're seeing that there are challenges with your receptionist or like you want it to update the routing or anything like that, definitely reach out to your account manager and we're happy to work through that. Everybody has full control over your receptionist. So you can't change the assigned phone number, but you can always change how your receptionist introduces themselves and then also the name and the gender. And so if you say, hey, we actually have a new teammate with a new phone number, we need to change them and update them accordingly. You just click on add new for the phone routing rules and you say like Tyler. So if anybody says Tyler, you just type in the phone number. And then you have the destination. So yeah, at any point you can do it through your maintenance book receptionist. But if you have any trouble, your account manager can definitely help walk you through it. The receptionist time zone should match Keel. When you log in, it should match your time zone. I believe all of our time zones update now. But if you have any specific questions, definitely feel free to reach out to us. Yes, Brian, that would be a great place to put in the maintenance book on your properties. So yeah, under properties and units, if that is in the maintenance notes within your property management system, that would be a great place to put that of like, hey, if there's a work order for this property, the electrical panel's in unit A, that way also like the AI will know that. So say if it's in unit B and you say, hey, the electrical panel's in unit A, like do not have the resident like try to bug the other tenants, like always dispatch the AI can see that and dispatch the vendor. And then similarly, if it's like in unit A and you know where the breaker location is within unit A, if you put that in, it'll be able to troubleshoot as well. No, cool use case. That was a good one to flag. And you should be able to do that within the maintenance notes section, Brian. Yeah, Mark, definitely. I believe you're one of mine. So yeah, send that one to me and I'll look into that with you. Because yeah, even if they ask as long as the routing rules say, hey, still take a message and it hits a topic that it should route as a message, it should still send it. Yes, Aziz, that can be changed. I'll sync with your account manager on that piece because yes, that might either just be a notification setting on our side that we just need to adjust, or it might be how we're reassigning it back into your system after the triage if you're just on the resident help desk or engaged here. But yes, that is something that should be able to be addressed. All right. Well, It was a pleasure having you all. Thank you for attending. Hope you found at least a small nugget of information useful. And yeah, if you have any feedback about these webinars or topics that you want to hear about, definitely let us know. We're here to support you. My entire team wants to make sure you're all as successful as possible. Want everybody to be in that 90 to 95% club. So yeah, have a fantastic rest of your day, everybody.